Right now, you decided to keep reading this sentence. You felt yourself choose it. Your hand could be reaching for your phone instead, but it isn't because you chose to stay. That feeling of choosing is the most familiar thing in your life. But the real answer is far stranger. That feeling might be arriving after the decision was already made, not metaphorically, literally after. In the early 1980s, a neuroscientist named Benjamin Libet built a strange little machine. He wired electrodes to people's scalps and asked them to do something almost embarrassingly simple. Flick your wrist whenever you feel like it. No rules, no timing. Just wait until the urge arrives, then move. In front of each person sat a clock with a dot spinning around its face faster than a second hand. Their only job was to remember exactly where that dot was the moment they felt the urge to move, not when they moved. When they decided to move. Libet wasn't just measuring movement, he was measuring the brain underneath it. And something showed up on the readout that nobody expected. A slow ramp of electrical activity began building in the brain. Researchers call it the readiness potential. It builds quietly in the motor regions, like a wave gathering itself before it breaks. And here is the part that broke a few assumptions in that lab. The readiness potential started roughly 350 milliseconds before people reported feeling the conscious urge to move. Your brain, in other words, appeared to start the decision before you knew you were deciding. Sit with that for a second. What does that even mean for the way you live? It means the experience of choosing might be something closer to a notification, like your phone buzzing to tell you about an email that was already sent. The decision happens. Then, a beat later, a signal reaches the part of you that narrates your life. And that part says, I chose this. Libet's numbers were small, the task was simple, and for decades, scientists argued over exactly what 350 milliseconds of brain activity really proves. Maybe it was just an unconscious preparation, not the decision itself. Maybe the brain was warming up an engine that you still got to steer. The debate never fully closed. But the question Libet opened never closed either. So other researchers went looking for it on a bigger scale. In 2008, a neuroscientist named John Dylan Haynes ran a version of this experiment inside an fMRI scanner, watching blood flow ripple through the brain instead of just electrical surges on the scalp. People were asked to freely choose between pressing a button with their left hand or their right hand whenever they wanted. Haynes' team found something that should sound impossible. Patterns in the frontopolar cortex, a region tucked behind the forehead, could predict which hand a person would choose. Not at the moment of choosing, up to 7, sometimes 10 seconds before the person felt they had decided. 10 seconds is not a flicker. 10 seconds is enough time to read this sentence twice. And in that window, before any sense of choice had entered awareness, the outcome was already leaning one direction inside the skull. You are not imagining the moment you choose. You are replaying it. Around the same era, a psychologist named Daniel Wegner was asking a related but even more unsettling question. Not just when does the brain decide, but why does it feel like you decided at all? Wegner called this feeling the experience of conscious will, and he argued it functions less like a steering wheel and more like a compass needle. It points confidently. It just doesn't necessarily drive the car. Wegner ran experiments where people watched a screen and a cursor moved, sometimes controlled by them, sometimes secretly controlled by someone else through a recording. When certain cues lined up, people confidently claimed they had moved the cursor themselves, even when they hadn't touched anything that mattered. The brain wasn't lying to be cruel. It was doing what it has always done, building a story after the fact that makes the outcome feel authored. This is not a glitch unique to a lab. This is the architecture you run on every day. Why does this matter outside a research building? Because almost everything you call a decision today is built the same way Libet's wrist flick was built. Quiet pressure accumulates first. Late at night, you didn't decide to crave something salty out of nowhere. Hours of subtle signals, hunger hormones, screen light suppressing melatonin, the memory of a snack aisle you walked past, were already accumulating a readiness potential of their own. By the time the thought arrives, hand me the chips, you are not having an idea. You are receiving a notification. Marketers learned this lesson long before neuroscience confirmed it with electrodes. A red sale sticker doesn't argue with you. It doesn't need to. It nudges the readiness potential upward before your conscious mind ever shows.